Welcome to Messy Business, the podcast that will help you change how you work, not who you are. This is where we talk honestly about thinking clearly, making better decisions, and building a business that actually feels good to run without hustle, hype, or pretending everything's fine. I'm Libby Langley, business coach, author, optimist, realist, and self-employed since 2011. Here's this week's episode. Hello there, my little sweetness. Welcome to another episode of Overthinkers Anonymous. I'm Libby Langley. I'm your host. I can overthink like the best of them. So you are in a very safe place here. However, I'm also aware of the downside of overthinking, the cost of overthinking. And it's massive. Right? It's an absolutely enormous operating cost in terms of money, of course, but also in terms of kind of energy and all this stuff. And I'm going to talk about that today in this episode of Messy Business. Overthinking, it's not about being diligent. It's not, doing a bit of extra thought about things is okay. But overthinking is a whole different ballgame. And it's really this hidden operating cost, Clarity, though, and confidence and conviction in your decisions. That's the profit lever here. That's what makes the big difference. So if you're listening to this whilst also mentally replaying the same decision for the 87th time, then hello, you are my people. We'll do it, particularly if it's a decision you made about 13 years ago. Then that'll be the one that sticks with you and bothers you the most, right? But, overthinking, there's like a sweet spot, right? Because overthinking is not being able to get something out of your head, just overthinking, going over and over and over and over and over and over it. And then there's the impulse, reactive, instant decisions. And I don't think either of them is the best way to do stuff. And I do both, right? Guilty. But I also can see very clearly in other people when it's actually impacting stuff. So there's a sweet spot in the middle. There's like just thinking enough. I don't know, comfortable middle thinking. I don't know what you call it, but overthinking it. I think sometimes you can feel like you're being a responsible grown-up by overthinking and guessing and playing out every single possible scenario. But actually, I don't think it is. I think it's just taking up expensive real estate, be that physically or just in your brain, or just in your brain. This is about really the mechanics of why your business perhaps feels more challenging than you hoped it would. And please note, I'm not saying you're the problem. I am saying here are some ways of thinking about things differently. Okay. So most of the business problems that people have, a lot of the time, particularly in very small businesses, solo businesses, particularly in service providers, it's different if you've got an enormous factory or something like that. There are logistical differences there. But when it's you on your own running your business, or perhaps with one or two people, it's a small, an SME. It's not a strategy problem. It's not. And I'm a strategist, right? I come from the school of strategy. And it's not a strategy problem, because a strategy, I remember one of my clients saying to me once, I don't really know what a strategy is. And it took a few weeks to actually kind of say that. And it's like, well, it's just a big word, isn't it? It doesn't, it's just having a plan and having a focus, really. And take that from someone with an MBA. I'm qualified to just say it's just a plan. We can add big words onto things, but most business problems, they're not strategy problems, because you have a vague idea of where it is that you want to go or why you're doing this. And if not, that is something that we need to talk about. But I'm assuming that you kind of have some some idea, some grasp on that. But the problem often isn't that. It's the thinking problem, right? It's the overthinking. It's the doubting yourself. It's the, is this enough? Or should I be doing more? Or how can I make this 10 times more complicated? And, I saw this advert on Facebook that was for, to produce AI documents, and AI will do all my Facebook ads for me and I'll make 500 grand in a week. And it's like, yeah, you can do that. But also, you probably don't need to. So you're overthinking. You're overthinking what business for you needs to look and feel like. And that's the really important thing. There is always a for you in here, because what you want will be different to what I want, and how many hours you work will be different to how many hours I want to work, and and all of that. So, and from everybody you sit next to at every networking meeting, we're all individuals here, so we all want slightly different things. However, the common theme, I think, is that most business problems aren't strategy problems, they're thinking problems. But what we do, or what we're told to do, is that we are the problem. We need to fix ourselves. We need to change who we are. And I was part of a very expensive program. Got sucked in. Man alive, I learned a lesson from that. Got sucked in and joined, and basically it was all about fixing ourselves. What's wrong with you? Look inside. And there's an element of that, right? Because knowing yourself and self-awareness is absolutely enormous. But it doesn't mean that everything can be, you need to have 20 years of therapy before you can run a successful business. Some things just aren't fixed like that, right? And that actually compounds the overthinking, because you're overthinking about what's wrong with you. And you're overthinking about, why isn't this working for me when that's working for someone else? It's like, I've had a song, I don't know if you have it too, I have songs playing in my head all the time. Tell me you're neurodivergent without telling me you're neurodivergent. I have songs playing in my head all the time. And apart from the IKEA hold music, which has been there for a few weeks because of the situation I'm in with them, but the one that's been playing is the Dan le Sac and Scrupulous Pip one. I can't remember what the song's called, but it's Oasis, just a band. The Cure, just a band. It's that one. And I think it's quite interesting here. I think it's quite relevant here about overthinking, because all these fantastic people that we know and that we put on pedestals, and we absolutely, we're mega fans of, right? And they are just ordinary people doing largely, ordinary things, but have become successful doing them. They're not any more brilliant necessarily, or better, or anything like that. And the thing about those bands is there's a list of bands in there, and they are just, some of them have made some banging tunes, some classic tunes, but they're not necessarily brilliant or seminally brilliant, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what we need to keep into perspective, right? The people that we look up to in business, yes, they've got something about them, they've got a bit of oomph about them, but they've also just kind of done their thing that they wanted to do. And I think that is the real difference, right? They're not sitting at home overthinking everything. They are going out there and doing the thing, making the music, creating the business. And when we sit and analyse and everything, the opportunity might have gone. And we've just made ourselves feel absolutely terrible about things. And you sit there and you keep researching things after you already know enough, or you'll buy yet another course because you think, I just need to know something else. And you don't. As long as you're a few steps ahead of the people that you're supporting, honestly, that's enough. Unless you're a heart surgeon or something like that, right? There's always caveats to everything I say, but I'm talking about general service-based businesses here for the most part. It's, it's this kind of constant doubting and questioning and overthinking. And you end up then spending so much time rewriting things that were absolutely fine because, hello, Libby, this is what I do. Rewriting things that are absolutely fine and analysing every comma and full stop and all of this, and delaying things because you want the perfect version. nothing is ever going to be perfect. And, actually, it's just come to me, but I think that's why I like doing this podcast so much. Because if I was writing this, and I really like writing too, I don't know if you get my emails or not, or the other stuff that I write online, but I really like writing, and I'm quite good at writing. And obviously I've written a book. It's called Life in Business. It's an excellent book for helping you just clear your mind of all the other shit. Find it on Amazon. But for the podcast, I can certainly be less perfect, and I can't overthink it because I just need to keep talking because it's recording, and then I stop recording and I send it off to my gorgeous editing team who do the rest of the stuff with it. And by editing, I mean sound balancing and adding an intro and outro. Obviously, I don't like this to be edited because this is what I'm like if you work with me, that's really important to me. So it's about finding your medium that works for you, I think. And there's certainly less space for overthinking when you are live, as I am now recording, than writing where you can edit, you can reread, and once you've sent it, that's when you spot the mistake and all of that. So yeah, delaying things because you want the perfect version, it's really tough, and that overthinking is can be a real killer. And if you do too much research, or you rely too much on ChatGPT, who is great for kind of helping you sort things out, but also will often offer counter suggestions and stuff. And it's like, oh God, now you've ended up with 5 different things and you've gone down a rabbit hole and lost 2 hours because, I've forgotten what the initial question was. And that's it's really real, actually. So, I use ChatGPT a lot for idea coordination. I don't know what the expression is. And for keeping me on track and keeping me focused and all this stuff. But if I hadn't trained myself and also trained it, then it would be an absolute nightmare. I would never get anything done because I would be just exploring ideas and all sorts of rabbit holes all the time. So you got to kind of know your trigger points as well and know your danger zones. And that's where self-awareness is really important here, to just understand how you work and how you feel. And also, I think that's something overthinking you'll often try and make a decision that feels emotionally risk-free. And that's a really interesting one because I don't think there are many decisions we make in business that are emotionally risk-free because we are the business, right? So often. We are the face of the business. Often the business is in our name. And so nothing is emotionless. It's not emotionally risk-free because we're invested in it. It doesn't mean that it defines our happiness. However, I think there needs to be some emotion in it or you've lost all your personality from it too. So, taming yourself a bit too much is, sometimes kind of quite difficult. And I would say that you're not indecisive. If you think you're indecisive, I bet you're not indecisive. You're just overloaded with the amount of decisions you're putting on your plate and the amount of thinking that you're doing. So what happens when we overthink stuff is that a decision you could make in 20 minutes, it turns into 3 weeks of research and background noise. And the real cost to that is it's not the minutes lost necessarily, because you can discover all sorts of interesting things along the way. It's the constant mental tab that's left open. And, if you talk about in terms of physical tabs on your computer, I mean, if you've ever worked with me or been on a Zoom with me and I shared my screen, you'll know I have lots. But I recently closed about, can't remember, 40 odd tabs. And I got down to probably just 20 or some, and I'm looking now and I think it's crept up to 30 or so already, because I have them open if they're things that I'm actively involved with, let's say. But it's a weight, right? If you listen to my episode a few weeks ago about the mental weight of digital clutter, it's a weight because it's there reminding you that there's something you need to be doing. And overthinking is exactly the same. And every time you don't trust your judgment, you don't trust your instincts, you don't listen to yourself, you teach your brain that you're not safe to lead your own business. And I think that's absolutely massive, because when you're a solo person, then you're responsible for not only delivering the thing, but also being the motivator, being the idea creator, being the CEO, being the one who makes the challenging decisions, being HR who looks after the well-being of yourself, of the finance stuff, of the, of everything. You're responsible for it all. And if somehow you're not trusting yourself, or you're giving yourself the message that you're not safe to lead your own business, that's going to be really difficult, right? Really difficult. Imagine if you've got someone sitting next to you, you've got a colleague who sits next to you, who says, yeah, you're a bit rubbish, aren't you? You're a bit rubbish, aren't you? Yeah. Really? You're a bit rubbish, aren't you? I mean, they would get fired if you were in a company, but it's just, that would just absolutely drain away any confidence or in your own ability that you have. And yet that's what we do to ourselves. It's just, you've got to catch yourself doing it, I think, and just think, what the bloody hell am I doing here? Make a decision, and that'll be fine. Unless you're a heart surgeon, in which case, please get fully qualified. And I think all of this confidence erosion, this is why small decisions start to feel like absolute mega mountains, because we just doubt ourselves so much and get tied up in knots with things. And what happens then is it will often end with a snap decision or a rash decision or an impulsive decision, right? Rather than what you know to be the right decision, but have just kind of lost your perspective, I guess, on. So things like, you'll cut your prices. You will do sudden pivots on things. You'll invent new offers. You'll rebuild your website. Hooray! Things like those, they're not strategy at all. They're relief seeking. They're trying to get comfort that you've done something. But those things aren't what sticks with your core, with what you want to do. It's flash sales. It's okay if you've got a warehouse of stock that you want to get rid of. Great. Do something like that, as long as it's still profitable and blah, 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 blah. But if you're doing that, if it's your service, then you don't need to do that. You just need to be consistent, and that's all you need to think about. Sometimes there just aren't any decisions to make. And I think that can also send us into an overthinking loop, because it's like, well, I'm just doing this. Yep, still just doing this. Yep, nope, still doing this. And that doesn't feel like enough. We're told that that's not enough, right? But what if it is enough? What if that is just absolutely perfect? And what if that is what you want to be doing and what you're good at and what brings you income? Then fine. There's nothing to overthink here. Go and think about something else. Go and learn how to play chess or, something that fills your brain space. Because what will happen is, when you have your, this kind of reactive behavior thing, you'll also have a momentum collapse. And everything then stays as nearly ready. Nothing gets done. Nothing compiles, nothing compounds. It's just, you're in a kind of perpetual waiting game. And I know over the years I've started to do things and just never finished them, because I can see very clearly, once I'm out of it, I can see very clearly that it's because it's not, I was overthinking it and thinking I need to do more, and I can create that. I can do that. And then it just gets you in a bit of a tangle, and you lose focus and sight on the thing that you're actually doing and that you're actually known for and you're actually good at and actually earns you the income. And honestly, that can be so, so simple. And in this noisy, busy world, particularly the online space, the simpler you make things, the easier it is for people to understand, and the easier it is for you to deliver as well. And that is never not a good thing, for sure. So, you don't want to let the shame creep in. because that then fuels more overthinking, and you're just stuck in this horrible cycle. It's really stressful as well. And oh my God, I've spent whole years in an overthinking cycle. Absolutely. And I've certainly created offers, services that, because I knew they would make money. And it's like, ew, that doesn't feel nice to me. And I haven't done that for a long time. But certainly within the last 5 years, I've created several things that, oh yeah, oh, I can create this. I can do all the tech. I can really enjoy doing that. I can launch it. People will buy it. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to deliver it. No, actually, no, it's not where my heart lies. It's not where my passion lies. I was overthinking and procrastinating and just tinkering in the background because I could. And it becomes quite damaging, and it becomes harder to be known for something. And I know that this has been an issue for me over the years. And once I did get diagnosed as autistic ADHD, honestly, it really, really helped me to just understand myself better and to catch myself when I'm doing this. And actually, my motto for 2026 is boringly simple. And, I quite like that, because the boringly gives the nod to the ADHD side of me that wants everything to be super exciting. And it's like, no, it's okay. This is, you might feel like this is boring, but that's good. And simple really suits the autistic side, who, can set up a process and leave it. And it's just a process that works. So it's understanding yourself and where your blind spots are, trying to find those blind spots. That's going to make an enormous difference here. And I think as well, it's worth noting that, capable people, you're a capable person, right? You're a smart cookie. Competent, capable people, they have higher standards because you have a higher ability. And so you can see multiple angles for things, but you struggle to commit to them because you can see fors and against, and you're having these kind of like arguments in your head about things all the time in your overthinking state. And you've got plenty of evidence that you're good, but you often end up treating these thoughts and these decisions like court cases or something, like it has to be, it has to be so black and white in your decisions on the way you move forward on things. And honestly, it's not a capability issue. You don't need to learn anything new. It's a clarity issue, pure and simple. So I'm going to give you a simple process that is going to help you here. It's a bit of a clarity triangle, right? So ask yourself these questions. What matters most right now? What matters most to you right now? And it could well be as simple as generating some additional income, or reducing your hours. There'll be something that comes to mind straight away. And in which case, brilliant. You've got your key driver, okay? So the next part of the clarity triangle is, what's the simplest next move? What's the easiest and quickest step you can take towards making that a reality? If it's increasing your income, it's looking at your pricing, or focusing on one thing to sell rather than 30 things to sell, right? If it's reducing your hours, if you stopped offering calls one day a week, wouldn't change your business, but it would change your life, okay? And then question 3, the side number 3 of the clarity triangle, is, what decision would future me thank me for? And I think that is a massive one, right? Think of yourself next week, next month, next year, 2 years' time. What decision could you make today that future you is going to thank you for? And I think you know the answer. I absolutely think you know the answer. But if you can't answer that, you don't need more ideas, right? You need less going on in your head. You need less noise. You need to underthink, not overthink. And that is exactly what I do in my Messy Business Think space. I help you slow your thinking down so you can see what's obvious again. So if you need that level of headspace and support, then come join me in the Messy Business Think space. there's a link in the show notes here, or you can just go to libbylangley.com and you'll find the information there. But it's something really valuable, priceless, really, to be able to just get things out of your head and crack on, because that's often what we need. You know how to do your thing. You just need to take away the noise and take away the overthinking, and then you're freer. You're freed up to be able to go and do the things that you want to do. So Think Space is there if you want to come join me in it. So to sum up today, you don't need a better brain. Your brain is fantastic. In fact, it's almost too good. You just need a calmer brain. You need to give your brain a bit of a break and make one decision today and let that be enough. You don't have to fix absolutely everything. And in fact, 10 of the things that you're trying to fix at the moment or trying to do, if you just deleted them all now, that would be a really good start, because you don't need them. Your business doesn't need them. It's all fine. Close the tabs, not all of them, because you'll combust. Close some of the tabs. You won't remember what they were anyway. Delete all those emails. You're never going to read them or reply to them. It's all fine. Okay? Good. Whew. That feels better, doesn't it? Okay. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Messy Business. I have been Libby Langley, and I am going to see you next week when I am talking about whether it's an income problem or a decision problem. Da, 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 da. I'll see you next week. Lots of love. Bye. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Messy Business. If this episode made things feel a little clearer, come and tell me. I'm over on Instagram at Libby Langley. Until next time, remember, you can change how you work without needing to change who you are.